Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to implement a shopping list project in Java. So we are going to implement the shopping list. I am getting the request to implement some project, so that's what the reason I'm doing this. So let's begin with adding the dependencies in our project. So first of all, I'm adding a dependency for our recycler view, as we are going to use the recycler view in it. We are not going to use any API. We are just going to use a room database. Also, we are going to use the MVVM. So I'm adding the dependency for view model. Now I'm adding the dependencies for our card view. This is the new thing we are going to implement in our recycler view. And as I said, we are going to use the room database. So I'm adding the dependencies for that. Apply and OK. Now I'm creating a separate package as we do it in our real-time projects. So I'm creating a separate package for database and another separate package for our view model. Inside the database, let's implement our database. So I'm adding a class that is going to be the app database where we are going to create our database. I already made a video on that, so you can use that as well, but I'm going to show you each step for that. So inside our database annotation, we need entities, and inside entity, we need to define our entity class. Also, we need to give the version number for our database. I'm giving it as 1 because it's the first time. I missed the abstract keyword. And here we are going to use the category in our shopping list. So category, inside the category, user can define the item. So let me create that class as well. That is simple model class. And we'll define it as an entity. Now I'm creating a singleton instance for our database. And a static function which is going to return the instance of our app database class. And this function is going to take a context as an input. And now we'll simply check if it is null, then we'll initialize our instance variable, else it will return it as it is. And now we'll initialize our instance variable. So that is room.database builder. Inside it, we need to pass the context or class name and the name of our database. So you can give any name. And I'm using allow in main thread queries. Also the call the at the end build. That's it for our database class. Now let's go to category entity and implement this class. So this is simple entity. We need to define parameters. So first parameter we need the UID, that is the primary key for our category class, or we can say category table, and I'm setting it to auto generate to true. Another parameter is the actually the column, and I'm giving it as a string type, and we can give it as a category name, and we need to define it as a column info, and we can give any name which is going to be the same name in the table. That's the column name. That's all for our category entity. Now I'm creating another class for our items. So each category has certain items, like grocery. Inside grocery you can have certain items when you go for a shopping. So this is for that. So this is the second table, name as the items. So inside that we need some columns. So in first column we need the UID, that is again going to be the primary key for that table. And second column we need the item name. Another parameter we need as a category ID, so that we can map our category ID with the category table. That is going to be the int type. And another column name we need as a completed. So when we buy it, we need to mark it as a completed. So this is going to be the Boolean type. Yeah, that's all for our items table. So when we implement our database, so inside that we need to define our item entity as well. Now inside the room database, we need another class, actually the interface, that is the DAO. So I'm giving it as a name, shopping list DAO, and we need to define it with the annotation DAO. And here we will make our all the queries. We'll write all the queries inside this interface. So first function inside this DAO, we need a get all category list, and that query is going to be the select star from category. So this function will return us all the items inside our category table. So that means it is going to be the list of category type. Now since we have a query, now we need an insert, so that we can insert into the category table. So I'm defining a function insert category. It's going to take the object of category. And after insert, we need update function as well. So if we need to rename a category, we are going to use it for the renaming the category. So let me define it. And last function for category table is the delete. So user can delete any category at any time. So we are going to implement that functionality as well. So I am defining that function also. Similar functions we need to define for the items table. So it's gonna be the query. So select star from items, but it need a where query as well. So where category ID is equal to the category. So all the category ID, wherever it's matching, it need to return the list of items. So I'll show you how you can define a parametric function inside the DAO. So this category ID will come from any view model. And this category ID we can pass it with a colon and the ID. And now similar to the category, we need an insert, update and delete function. So let me define for the items. Similar to the delete function in category, it is gonna work for the items. All the functions are taking input as the items object. Yeah, so DAO is also ready now. So now I'm creating another activity which is going to be our splash screen. So you have seen most of the project have the splash screen. So I'm going to show you how you can make a splash screen in your project that is going to be displayed for the 2 seconds only when application launch. So for that I need an image. So I'm using this material icons that is free. So we can get any icon from here. So I'm choosing one. Let me get this one. So it's downloaded now. And this is how go to file, new vector image, and here you can browse your file, and then you can rename it and give it any size if you want to change. So I'm giving it as a 300 dp. Next and finish. Now let's go and implement the layout of our splash screen. I'm simply adding an image. You can design according to you. I'm setting the image on the center of the screen and then passing the image to this image view what we imported just now. Now go to splash screen activity and then we'll implement it. So how you can navigate to the another screen after 2 seconds. So here we are going to use the handler, but before that I am just hiding the action bar because we don't need it. It's gonna be the full screen. So here we can use the new handler. Post delayed is the function name of the handler, and we'll pass the interval in the milliseconds. So 2000 is millisecond is equal to 2 seconds, and once that timer will implement, at that time we'll start another activity. So our activity is gonna be the main activity after a splash, and we'll close this splash. So So that's it. Our splash activity is also ready now. Let's go and implement our main activity. So we'll start with the layout. So basically main activity is going to be our category, which is going to display the category list of inside the recycler view. So I'm simply adding one recycler view in or in the top of the activity, and on the bottom of activity I'm going to add an image. From there we can add categories so that we can insert categories inside the category table. So I'm going to keep it on the bottom right corner, and we need another image. So let me find one. Okay, this looks better to me. You can use any images. Similarly, we need to import that into our project, and now I am using it. And another text view we need, like whenever we don't have any category inside our table. So like the case where we don't have anything at the launch of the application, like very beginning of the application launch. So at that time we can show you don't have any list, and user will inform like you don't have any list. Click on add button and add some category. So layout is ready for main activity. Now let's implement our main activity, or we can say implement our category list. First of all, we need to set the title. We can give any name. I am giving it as a project name, shopping list. And now we need to handle the image, which is going to add a new category. Now I'm handling its click. So on click of this button, I'm planning to show a dialog where we can have one input, edit text, and two buttons. So let me write the code for showing a dialog. So it's going to be a simple alert dialog. So now we need a layout for our dialog as well. So let's create that. So this layout is for our add category dialog only. I'm adding and one edit text to get the input from the user on the dialog itself. Our layout is ready for the dialog. Let's go back to our main activity. And pass the name of our layout class. Now we need to handle the create button and cancel button click. On a cancel, we'll simply close the dialog. It's not finding. I copied the wrong thing. Should be the builder and dismiss. Similarly, we need a click handling for the create button text view, and where we will call our insert function. So let check the what user has entered in our input edit text. And I'm adding a null check as well, what user has entered, so that user is not able to enter the empty or null inside our database. So I'm adding the null check or empty check. If user did not enter anything, then it will show a toast to and ask them to enter a category name. Here we need to call the insert function of view model. So we are going to use the view model as well. So in that case, we need to create a view model first. But before that, we'll complete the code for this dialog. So let's set the view on our dialog builder. Set view and call the dialog view. And at the end, dialog builder dot show. So once that function is called, then dialog will pop up. So we'll come back to this function once our view model will be ready. Now inside our view model package, I'm creating a class, then we'll create a view model for that. I'm giving it as a name main activity view model, and now we are going to implement it. So I'm using an Android view model because we need context, application context to call our database. So that's the reason I'm using Android view model instead of just view model. And this is our live data. And inside our constructor, we'll initialize it. And inside our view model, we need to access our database, app database. So I'm declaring it as a variable, and inside our constructor, I'm initializing it as well. Now I'm creating a separate function for our category list observer. It is simply return this live data. And now this function is going to retrieve category list from the database. So I'm giving it as a name, call all category list, and inside this we'll simply call our DAO. So database dot I think we did not define our DAO inside our database. So let's define it first. It's going to be the another public abstract or DAO and define a function. Now we'll call this deriva and dot get all category list, which is already defined in our DAO, and that's going to return the list of category. And in case of category list is null, we'll check the size of it. If it is greater than 0, then we'll send the category list. If it is not greater than 0, then we'll simply send it to null value, so that we can show if it is null in our activity, so that we can show no results message to the user. Similarly, we need to implement a insert function. This function I was talking about, which we need to call from the dialog. So I'm creating a category instance, and inside the category we just simply need to set the category name which user entered on the dialog, and then we'll call similar way app database dot DAO dot insert and pass over category object, and then we'll call the load all categories, so that instantly it will reflect on our recycler view. Similarly, we need to call update function. In case of update, we'll simply get the category object from the activity or the user, and with update we define the delete function as well. So we should have the delete category function as well. And in all cases we need to immediately reflect on our recycler view, so I'm immediately calling the get category list function, and here we need to initialize our view model. So I'm creating a separate function for initializing the view model. Here we are going to use the view model provider. So view model providers is deprecated, so don't use that. Use view model provider. And now we will call our observer get category list observer function and observe that live data here. So as we said, if the in our view model we set it to the null. So in case if there is no data, then we'll receive null. So I'm putting a null check here. In case if it is null, then we will simply show the message to user. If it is not null, then we will set that list to the recycler view. So we'll check what do we have. Did we give any ID to this text view? No, so let me give the ID to that text view. Since message is already set to that text view, so we'll simply set the visibility of this text view. In case we have data, then we'll set it to gone. Now we need to initialize our recycler view. And now it's time to create another adapter for our recycler view. So let's create our adapter for our recycler view. So I'm giving it as a name the category recycler view. Category recycler adapter. So here we need to inflate our layout. And we need to create our layout now. So that is going to be the recycler view row, how it's gonna look like. And I'm going to use the constraint layout only. And as I said, like we are going to use the card view. So I'm adding a card view. Inside that I'm going to add the views. Now I'm adding another constraint layout inside the card view so that we can align our icons and the text view. I'm simply adding one text view. Now adding one image view. One is to remove category, and another image view I'm going to add for edit the category. We need the icon for that. So for delete, I'm going to use this icon. Let me get that. And for edit, I need another icon. So I can use this one, or maybe so this look better to me. So I'm going to use this icon for edit an item. Let me import it into the project. So both the icons are imported. Now I'm going to use those here inside the image view, and another image view is for edit. Then I'll change the icon as well. So layout is ready now for our row. Now we'll go back to our adapter and use that layout here inside on create view function. And now we need to extract our text view and the image views what we have inside our layout. Now inside the onBindViewHolder function, we need to set the data to our text view. So we'll set the category name. And for the images, we need to handle their click. So I'm handling those click listeners. Now on click, if we handle the on click, then we need to handle the item click as well. So on the item click, on the row click, we'll call a new activity to display the item inside the category. Now I'm creating an interface for handle over click. And I'm defining few functions inside it. So one function is for item click, another function is for remove category, and another function is for edit category. Now we need to handle their click, or we need to set our adapter inside our main activity. And in init view model observer, we'll set the data what we received from the view model. In case there is no data, so recycler view visibility we need to set to gone, as we set the no result text view visibility to visible. And similarly, when we have data, then we need to reset it to the visible. Another thing, we need to handle the click as well. So now I'm implementing that interface. We'll override its function, all three functions. So this function will call when we will tap on an item, we'll add it or we'll try to delete. And we'll simply get the click listener inside our constructor of our adapter. And now we'll call our click listener interface functions and we'll pass the object, category object. And calling according to the edit button, edit image click and the remove category image click, the function is calling accordingly. So our adapter is ready now. Let's go back to our activity and handle these functions here. So we already have these functions in our view model, so we just simply need to call view model functions. So in case of edit, we need to call that show category list dialog one more time, so that user can add it in that text view itself. So I'm reusing it, but I need to differentiate, like in case of add, the same function is getting called, or add it also. So I'm differentiating it with the based on one boolean. So if this boolean is true, then we'll call it for add it. If it is false, then we'll call it the add function of our view model. And now we need a object of category object. So let me define it. So this is going to be initialized inside this added category function. And now our dialog will open, and then we'll set the new name, whatever user has entered, and then we'll call added function of our view model, and we'll pass the same object. And in case if it is added, then let's change the uh, let's set the text whatever we received from the database, or we'll set the button name as update instead of create. we'll set the category name and then user can edit it and then save it, or we can say update it. Let's run our application and see. So I'm missing something. Let's go and see. Okay, so inside our Gradle file we need to change this, so it should be annotation processor for compiler, room compiler. Now run and see. So we are successfully able to run it, and let me click on add button. So you see the dialog. Now I'm giving it as any name, and you see the grid. Okay, so that's great. We are able to see that category. It's working absolutely fine. I'm seeing some small UI, like it doesn't have any padding from left. So let me add that margin. Also that image, edit image, doesn't have any margin on bottom. So let me add that padding. Yep, rest everything looks good. On click of it, it's calling edit, and you can see the update button name. That's great. And then update is also working. Let's try to delete. Okay, so delete is also working, and we can see if there is no data, then it's showing us the no result, or you don't have message, you don't have any category list message we are able to see successfully. That's really great. Now we did not see the splash screen, so that is basically we didn't make the splash screen as the launcher. Let me make the splash screen as launcher, and then we'll be able to see the splash screen than our main activity. Let's run it again and see. There you go. So this is our splash screen. We are not seeing no result. Uh, Let me remove this visibility. Then run and see. Okay, now we can see that. Let me add one more time. One category, electronics, and create. Now it look better. We have proper margin. Let me try and edit. There you go. So now inside this category we'll add certain items, and we'll see another list of items inside it. So let's do it by adding a empty activity, and you can give any name. Now we need to design its layout, so it's gonna be almost same, but there will be some certain difference. So first we need a recycler view on top of all. I need a edit text that is going to, like, user can add certain items through that I'm going to put it on the bottom of the screen. Now I'm adding an image view. Basically, when user will enter, so after clicking on that image, that is the icon, the data will store, that item will stored in the database. For that, that image or icon will be at the end of the added text. Now we need the icon for that, so let me find out one. I think this will better. You can use any icons if you have anything. And I'm adding another text view for the no result, so I'm just copy and paste it from the main activity. So this is gonna be behave same as if you don't have any item, then it will not show, it will be visible and show a appropriate error message to the user. Now on item click, we'll call that activity. So let me start that activity from this main activity. And we need to pass the category ID and category name so that user can add to the appropriate category ID only. So just to make the relationship inside the database, we need to pass the category ID as well. Category name I'm passing to just to display it on a title bar. So we are reading with the same key, the category ID and the category name as well. So make sure to pass the same key what we passed on the previous screen. And now we will set the title name on the supported action bar. Dot set title, and then we will simply pass this category name here so that it will display on the top. And I'm making the back button enabled here. So that you can see the back button on top left corner. Now I'm extracting all the views. We'll handle that send button, save button, click. We'll make a small validation, like user should be able to enter at least some character inside the edit text. If not, then we'll show a small toast. This is the separate function I'm calling when we need to save a item. This function is for initializing the view recycler view. Now we need a adapter as we did for the category. So let me copy and paste the same adapter and we'll modify it according to the items, so that we don't need to write the same code again. We'll just modify that category adapter to the item adapter. Now we'll modify this click listener function name and the list type. Instead of category, it's gonna hold the items type of data. And now we need to implement the items click listener interface here instead of category one. And now we'll override all the three functions. So this adapter is also going to have similar kind of function, like we user can edit the item, user can delete the item, and on item click it, user can mark it as the complete as we define inside our data class or the model class. And now this function is for our view model, and now we need a separate view model for our items. So I'm again doing the same thing, like copy paste for the existing view model. We can reuse it, but we need to define the separate function, so better to have the separate view model for each activity. Now we'll make changes in this view model. And accordingly we will call our DAO functions. So here get all list, it need a category ID so that we can get it from the uh, activity. So we'll make it as a parametric. Let me modify all these functions before that. Here this function will having the category ID as a int type. And now we will use that view model inside our activity. That is new view model providers. Inside the get function will pass the this new view model. Now we'll set the observer. And similarly, if the way we did it in the category screen, if there is no data, then we'll enable the no result text view, and if there is data, then we'll set it to the adapter. Now we'll call our view model from the onCreate and the init recycler view as well. And now we need to handle the save new item function. So here we'll call the insert function of our DAO or the view model. So first of all, we need to build an item object with the name and category ID. So we'll set the name and category ID. And now we'll call our view model dot insert And at the end, we'll set our edit text to empty. And now we will handle all the function which we override from the adapter, like item click. So an item click will simply will update the completed status to true. If it is true, else we'll set it to the false and we'll call the update function of our DAO. Similarly, we will handle the remove item and the edit item functions. So remove item is straightforward, but edit is gonna be a little bit tricky. The way we handle in the category activity or the main activity for the category. So similarly, we are going to use the same approach so that we can set the item name to the edit text, and then user can edit it accordingly, and then on the send save button click, it can be updated. So we'll set the new name to the object, item object, and now we'll call simply the view model dot update item function, and then we will set this item update object to null. Also, we'll set the edit text to empty. And inside our item adapter, we didn't use the completed uh, variable. So let me do that. So on item click, we'll simply draw a line on the item name if it is marked as a completed. So we'll simply draw a line on top of the text, or we can say a text view. with the help of paint flag. And in else case, if the status is false, it's the complete status is false, then we'll not draw the line on top of it. So it is just to differentiate between the task has been completed or the item has been picked. Now let's run our project and see. So you can see the splash screen and there are no category so far. I'm going to add a new category. Okay, I think we missed something. Let's bring the previous one. Okay, so we didn't call our load category function or get categories function of the view model. So that's the reason when we are first time coming, it's not loading any categories. So let's run it again. So now it's loading both the categories. That's great. Inside the category electronics, we are not seeing any items. So let's add some items. That's great. We can see now. I'm adding another item. Few more. So we can see all the items has been added successfully. Now let me delete one. It's able to delete. So our delete function is also working. Now let me try to add it. So I'm editing it. There you go. So it's editing also working absolutely fine. And on click of item, it's like drawing the line as well. So this is just to differentiate, like if item has been picked, we can mark it as complete. And if user want to revert it, then they can revert it back. So we see the new category, and in that category we haven't added any items. So now I'm adding few more items in it. There you go. You can see now we can delete and delete, and you can see the no results as well. So you see the back button was not handled. So let's handle that back button on top of the items activity. We'll simply close that activity by calling the finish function. Now I'm adding, deleting, and now adding new category, grocery. There you go. There are no items. I'm adding some. Okay, I think we are still missing the load items function, get all the item list function called from the onCreate. So an activity is loading, we are not calling that function. So let's call it and run it again. There you go. So guys, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching.